My hands stable, I feel able to turn the tables. I could do this, just keep moving, keep your hands up, stupid. I feel lucid, a new view, and I can see the end, I can see my future, I can view it. It's right there for the taking. Everything I've ever wanted, dreams are just waiting. I just gotta fight for it, willing to die for it, willing to like soreness, I just need to hike for it. I'm standing up 'cause I've had enough. I won't give up, I'm a champion. As long as I'm breathing, I'm not retreating. I could be bleeding, I'll take a beating and keep on proceeding. I'm not fatiguing, 'cause once I enter the ring, I'll be undefeated. I got everything I need to be the greatest I could be. Watch out, I'm here now. Big mood, no doubts. Big moves, big mouth. Hit hard, knockout. I come from a different pedigree. Destiny don't mean anything. I make everything in my life come to life. Manifest, see the light. Intuition be my guide. This is how I have survived.
What is up, Rio Hondo football fans? It is a big matchup this week with the Boron Bobcats here in week 4 of the 2023 season. And we have ourselves quite a slugfest that is to be definitely occurring on Friday night at Kare Park in Irwindale, as two undefeated teams, two teams that are 4-0, roll in and are on a collision course to see who can remain undefeated. And I can promise you this, there will be no draws in this fight. Someone will go down on the canvas and one will be left standing proudly undefeated, remaining undefeated, I should say. A big game this week. And you know what? We've said it throughout the season. Every time Rio's played someone, well, Pauly, these are the rivals, right? We got to, it'll be a good game. Or El Monte, oh, they're going to be a tough public school. And you know what? You make these projections, you try to pump up every game if you can. But I think we're all honestly very looking forward to this one here in week 4 after 4 blowouts really for Rio Hondo and also Boron. That we both have, both teams, I should say, have put up quite a bit of points. No game has really been close. So something has to give here on Friday night at Kare Park. As Boron will make that long trip down 395 into our neck of the woods, as we made that trip last year, and this rivalry has gone back quite a ways. We've made that trip a lot of times. They've come down. We've met in the playoffs a few times. It really got going, I think, in 2008 when Boron had one heck of a team, and we upset them, and that's kind of how the relationship started. And Rio had some great teams from 08 to 2012. I think a great 5-year stretch there where Rio hoisted 3 CIF championship trophies and had a runner-up finish as well. So a really special era in the Rio Hondo history books is kind of when Boron and Rio met, and they decided right then and there, let's play every year. And that tradition has been going on for quite some time. Mutual respect between these two schools for sure. Kind of opposite, if you will, in proximity. In it's public school up in the high desert, right? And we're a private school in a very populated area of the Los Angeles County. But there's a lot of similarities between these two schools that are different on paper, but that's about as far as they go. So a lot of respect between the schools, and just looking forward to this one, man. It's going to be physical. They know us, we know them. Rio has had the upper hand many times in this series, but Boron has had some times where they've come down and beaten us up and had some huge wins in this rivalry as well. So expect the unexpected. I could say that knowing both of these head coaches a little bit now. Well, I know our guys very well, and I had the privilege to speak with head coach Rob Kostopoulos last year about this game and the rivalry, what it's meant, and kind of how much respect he has for Rio Hondo. We love getting that outside look, if you will, from other teams and coaches as to the perception of Rio Hondo, because we're proud of our heritage and our history and the program itself. But it's nice to see that perspective from other people who didn't grow up in it, but have come to appreciate it and honor it as well. So in going with that kind of thought, we brought on the show today, not one, but two members of the Boron Bobcats. We're bringing back Rob Kostopoulos from last year, who was the head coach and head coach for many seasons. He's now the principal at Boron High, as well as the athletic director. So kind of juggling all those hats is tough enough, let alone being the football coach. So he is now just, I shouldn't say just, he is the athletic director and principal. That's enough going on. And so I asked him originally to come on, and he said, yeah, I want to bring our new head coach with us, Sherman Burkhead. So we got two members of the Boron Bobcats here today that on the podcast that I thought would be a great joy just talking to them. I recorded this not too long ago and wanted to have you guys hear it, obviously, here on the podcast. And again, it's two men, I would say that I think the Bobcats up there are in good hands in Boron. And I think the Rio faithful will be impressed with how Boron operates, not just their look about us, but also in the great things they're doing. They're undefeated again, going into this with us, each of us 4-0. And you make no mistake about it. They want Rio Hondo. They want a victory over Rio Hondo. I think Rob says that last year and even this year that, there's nothing much better than beating Rio Hondo. So we as a program at Rio has taken it to a lot of other schools out there over the years and been kind of that upset maker. Well, there's teams like Boron who are gunning for us at times, and Boron definitely wants a piece of us. And hey, we'd like a piece of them. So it's going to be on Friday night. I hope you guys are ready. There's no bad blood here or anything. It's mutual combat, mutual respect, much like fighters in a ring that are going to duke it out and counterpunch each other. But at the end of the fight, there should be some hugs and handshakes, and somebody's face will be more bloody than the other, and that's probably who the winner will be. So looking forward to you guys hearing this episode today, conversation with the head coach of the Boron Bobcats, as well as their principal, who used to be the head coach of the Boron Bobcats. So a great conversation with those guys. I will get right to it. I usually break down the scores and the kind of who we're playing and this and that, and bring on a member of the Rio Hondo alumni, but I kind of go over the scores with the coaches here in the interview. And I thought you guys would enjoy this 40-minute conversation or so. And then at the very end of the show, like always, I'll throw out a rules reference, just so a rule or a topic really that we can maybe get a little bit better knowledge of the rules as fans and coaches and players and everything too. But the main event, if you will, is the interview today with two great men from the high desert out there in Boron, Principal Rob Kostopoulos and head coach Sherman Burkhead, who's taken over for Rob this last year. And just, again, a fun conversation about the history of this rivalry, how Boron is doing, kind of what their goals are, and kind of just their thoughts on Rio Hondo football from as an opponent. It's always fun talking to the guys across the field, and nothing but respect from us to them, and just an honor and privilege that they would come on the podcast to talk with me once again. We'll try to get more and more schools to do this, but you know what? There's not as many schools out there that we have this great relationship with like we do Boron. So without further ado, let's bring them on. Principal Rob Kostopoulos and head coach Sherman Burkhead from Boron High School. Okay, we are now joined by two very important people from Boron High School. We are joined by Rob Kostopoulos, the principal and now athletic director at Boron High School, and their new head coach, Sherman Burkhead. I'll say hello to each of you individually. Rob, good seeing you, man. It's been a year, but hello again.
Nice to see you again, Matt. Appreciate everything you do. And Coach Sherman and I were just saying we're kind of envious of the YouTube stuff you got going on. And Sherman's a lot more techie than I am, but he's definitely wanting to bring us into this social media era for sure. So don't be surprised if he starts following suit on some of this stuff.
Hey, well, that's why he took the keys from you, with the football program. So it's I could see, the evolution, and we'll see where it goes. Coach Sherman Burkhead, pleasure to meet you. We've never met before. I've been a Rio Hondo guy forever. Graduated way back in 2003, And yeah, I just started this up a couple years ago, promoting the Rio Hondo program. So pleasure. Appreciate you taking the time tonight to talk to me.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's a privilege.
Oh man, great stuff. And you guys are a small school up in the high desert. We're a small private school down here in the very populated LA County. So it's kind of like we had this conversation, Rob, last year when you were the head coach. Just the mutual respect between these schools. Two, I would say, polar opposites, really. But when you break it down, it's like, no, we're a lot more similar than we are different.
Very, very much so. And that's one of the reasons why I like scheduling the game year in, year out. I have no problem playing Rio Hondo Prep. I always tell people from Boron, I was like, we're not going to be scared of Rio Hondo just because they know how to win, right? We're going to be more bonded by what they do well. And yeah, you would be surprised at the similarities, and people would be surprised at the similarities of Boron and Rio.
Absolutely. And Coach Burkhead, I mean, you've been around the program a few years. We'll talk about your journey here soon. But I mean, if you could, what were your early, I guess, impressions of Rio Hondo? Was it something Coach Rob just mentioned to you one time, or did you physically see Rio Hondo and get that kind of experience? I'm always curious in kind of getting people's perspective early on of RHP.
Yeah, actually, years ago when I first moved to Boron, which is my wife's hometown, my oldest son actually played against Rio Hondo as when you guys had a JV team back then as a sophomore, and that was my first taste of Rio Hondo football, and realizing like this is a program that really is dialed in and well coached, and definitely was always a good test year in and year out for Boron. In fact, that's one of the talks that we've had. I've seen teams have is getting ready to play Rio Hondo every year.
Yeah, I talked to Coach Mark Carson over the weekend, and he said, it's a game that's played every year. We go up there, you come down here, and Rob, at one time, this rivalry was really intense. A lot of postseason meetings, some regular season games. I remember 43-42 at our place one time. So this goes back a little bit. Rio Hondo has probably had more victories than losses in it, but it's always intense. They have. It's always intense. It's always we've each knocked each other out of the playoffs, though, so we could say that. Talk to me about the history of this rivalry.
So if you remember right, we didn't play you guys until you came and kicked our butts in 2008, I think it was. We thought we had a really good team. We thought we were special, and you guys came out to Boron. I want to say like Quintero. There's some of the names were like Quintero and Preciado and some of those guys.
Charles Quintero, Nick Preciado, yeah.
And we thought, oh, we're going to be just fine. This is a first or second round game, and you guys mopped us. It was like 42-14. And after the game, Fink was the head coach at the time. I was an assistant, and we just all agreed that, okay, we just found our measuring stick, and we called Rio immediately. So we let the playoffs happen. Fink got a hold of Ken Drain at the time and said, we want to play you every year. We don't care what the matchup, how it happens or whatever. We want to play you. We decided right then and there that we really didn't know what we were like. You set that tone for us, and we decided that we wanted to play you every year. And I guess I'm just kind of holding on to that tradition, because I will not lie. I have people ask us like, why do we keep playing Rio? And I literally answer a question. Sherman knows. I answer the question with a question, and I say, why not?
Right.
Why not play Rio? And no one can really give me an answer other than you guys win. There's no real, so I keep saying, why not play Rio?
Well, at one, maybe we have a streak going or something, but there was times when it was back and forth playoff matchups, and Mark's answer to that same question is, why are we playing Boron every year? They're farther away. There's plenty of schools here. It's kind of like, well, they will play us, because sometimes you take games against opponents you don't know, and you're supposed to do a home and home. They play you once, and they there isn't a second game. And so finding those opponents that you share a history with is special. And man, when we played an 8-man football back in my day, my senior year, we went 11-man, and we still traveled all over. So Rio is used to these far away games. Boron doesn't seem that far. I mean, I've been to Trona, I've been to Lone Pine, we've been to Catalina Island, King's Christian up in Fresno for a playoff game. I mean, Rio's used to traveling. So I always tell them, like, come on, it's not that bad of a road trip. Plus it prepares you possibly for some long distance playoff road trips, right?
It does, and it's not that bad. If you're in a car, I think we can get to you in an hour and a half. Now a bus is going to take 2+, but Parents can get to Rio, and parents from Rio can get to Boron in an hour and a half. It's not that bad.
And,
No.
and let's just face it, it's always, even though, maybe the scores don't always go the way we want them to, it's always a good matchup. Physically, it's always been a very good football game.
Absolutely. And Coach Carson mentioned that our star last year, Ryan McCullough, who's now playing at Cal, he said, he's a D1 football player. And he said, yeah, the Boron Bobcats, man, every year, that was the most physical game, especially last year. Ice bags all around for both teams, I got to imagine.
It was a very physical game last year. The scoreboard just didn't really show that because I tried to throw the ball 50 times.
That extends the game sometimes, unfortunately. Coach Burkhead, while we're on the subject, you're the coach of a team that travels a lot, not just to Rio Hondo. I was looking at your league. You guys go, not this year, but you guys have Bishop on your schedule, Rosamond, Desert out at Edwards Air Force Base, Kern Valley. So if you're going to play football at Boron, you better get used to bus trips, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's just kind of where we are, and especially now that we're in the central section, we get even into the playoffs where we're traveling. Last year we went all the way up to Woodlake.
5 hours did it take us?
Yeah, I think
4.5 hours took us for a playoff game,
and it's just kind of normal. But it's actually been like that since we started coaching youth football. I mean, part of our youth football league back in the day was Mammoth, which is way up to 395.
Yeah,
so we just kind of plan for it and go with it.
Yeah.
What's funny is there's other states, you always think of like Texas, right, where the traveling is a great deal. And so I don't know, I feel like when you travel a great distance for a game, for me, it's like it elevates it. It makes it more important. It just feels bigger, right? Like that's just me. I haven't done it, years ago, but Rio started their season in San Diego to start the year. It felt bigger. It made it a bigger deal. So I got to imagine it's that way for you guys almost weekly.
Yeah. Yes, and nobody wants to ride home on a long bus ride losing. So
that's right. I think that is pretty much universal. Let's go to you, Coach Burkhead. Back to kind of your football journey. You married someone from Boron, and then you get here, and you didn't immediately get involved in coaching necessarily, but you got involved with the Boron football program.
Yeah, so my oldest son played for Rob actually when Rob was a JV head coach, and then my youngest son, who now plays for Bakersfield College, he was a young guy. I coached him up since he was like 5 years old, and worked my way through the youth football program. And I actually was when he got to high school, I thought I was going to just sit and be a fan for his high school career. And then Rob asked me to.
We asked him to announce. He's got a good radio voice.
That's just from preaching every week. So, but then they asked me to jump on the staff and help out, and just kind of work our way through this program. And we've kind of built this philosophy of where we want to be. And Rob and I felt this is a good natural evolution for this team right now.
Absolutely.
It's really neat. And Coach Burkhead, you're also Pastor Burkhead, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah.
Very
I'm
nice.
Little Baptist church, like 2 blocks away. So.
Hey, that's cool. And I think, Rio is a faith-based institution. And I think that, teaching philosophies of the Bible and things to players, I think it's also been a huge advantage for Rio. And I don't know how you coach football almost without getting a little preachy at times, personally, but I mean, are you able to kind of balance those two to bring in, in some places we can't even pray on the field anymore because that's wrong. So, I mean, how do you balance it out?
Well, fortunately, we have a community that really supports that. This blue collar community that we have that most people at least identify with the faith. But I think this is a really good fit because this is a chance to really equip and sharpen young men at the formative age of their life. We're teaching them the greatest game in the entire history of the world, and using this to be able to grow them up as men. And Rob and I are on the same page. Long after these kids grow up and people don't remember. I mean, these kids will remember what happened with Rio Hondo for sure, but years later, what kind of men they become is really the important the important thing that we're building right now. And so being able to use my faith and instill that into these kids, obviously not forcing anything on them, but leading by example and showing them how to grow to be the right kind of men, I think is a big part of what we do.
And we
That's-
still pray on the field. We're not scared
Absolutely.
to pray on the field. We pray in front of the whole community. And if you have a problem with that, I guess you'll come and talk to me on Monday.
Amen to that. Good to hear. There's
We've
plenty
even
of people-
gathered with other teams.
Yeah, we've prayed with other schools after a game in the 50-yard line. That's not uncommon.
That's very, very nice to hear and see, especially at public institutions, because I know it's a bigger deal, and in some parts of the world, the country anyway, it's become a crime in places. But anyway, God bless you both for that. I don't know how you do school without football, and I don't know how you do football without some God talk. So I don't know.
That's
Just
right.
me. It's
That's
hard.
right.
I don't know how you would do it. And on our staff recently this year, we added one of the first people I think ever who's not played at Rio or coached Rio before, Rocky Seto, who basically coached at USC and with Pete Carroll, the Seattle Seahawks, but he gave up all that to be a pastor, and then has come and helped out to the program now. So he's been a huge addition, just teaching the word to our guys and everything. So
That's amazing stuff.
yeah. It's just, again, funny how the similarities go. And you think some people or a group, it's like, no, man, we're actually walking the same walk sometimes. Rob, if you would talk to me about now being the athletic director, maybe you were before, but you're the principal. I mean, come on, you couldn't juggle 3 of the most difficult jobs at a school at the same time, principal, AD, and football coach?
No, there's no way. So I'm the AD for the district. We do have an athletic director. Her name's Marjorie Stuckey. We love her to death. She does a great job, but it just came to a point where I needed to make a decision on what my future was going to hold, and it's definitely going the admin route. And it's nearly impossible for a couple of reasons. Just time to do it the right way. But also, I don't know that I was really doing the players a real service. A kid gets in trouble at school and I'm the principal and the head coach. I got to come down with a hammer probably a little harder than what I probably should have. And that happened a couple of times last year. And us as a staff agreed. Like, I just don't know that this is the right road, right? And Sherman was obviously the right guy. Him and I get along great. We're great friends outside of coaching in general. So we just agreed, like, I just think it's time. I think it's time to go a different path. I'm coaching my kids in youth football, so I'm still having a blast. Got the whistle on right now. We just came from practice. But yeah, the disservice, I think, more of the fact of I had to give something up. Something had to give, because both of those are positions that you need to be directly dedicated 100% with nothing pulling you away. You know what I mean?
And you need each of those positions, the higher, the position ranking, a pecking order, but you need them to keep the other, things in order, keep other, there's got to be priorities. So no, I totally understand that. And at Rio, it's very similar. Most, if not all, the coaches played there. And Coach Carson, he's also the athletic director. We have our principal, vice principal there as well, but it's tough. One thing at Rio, which it sounds like in Boron too, is you wear many hats, man. You do it all. I mean, talk to me about some of the. Rob, you started as an assistant coaching with your dad, right? And then how many years were you as an assistant coach, and then were the head coach?
So Fink hired me as an assistant in 2005. So what did I do? 2005 to all the way to when I took over in 2015. So man, what I did 10 years as a Todd's assistant. Fink won a lot of football games in Boron, and I was his assistant. That's where I met Mark. It's where we met Rio in general. Had some lot of good battles, and I just felt like once I was involved and there was other guys gone, I just kind of felt like this was something we needed to hang on to. Your guys' values are a lot like ours. You're trying to hold on to the old school mentality, and not a lot of people are. Mm-hmm. And especially post-COVID, post-pandemic, very few cultures and alumni values are being held on anywhere. We are trying very hard. You guys are trying very hard to keep everything in order. And I think that's what I like the most about you guys.
Well, appreciate that. Always nice hearing compliments like that. And again, with our experience with Boron, it's like there's a mutual respect there. You're gonna enjoy the bus ride. You're gonna get up there and maybe during the game, maybe during 48 minutes, maybe it's a little more intense. Rob, I'm sure you and Mark have shouted at each other from 53 yards away a time or two, but it's a hug and a handshake afterwards, regardless.
It always is, always was. I'm hoping this regime stays the same.
Yep.
Mark can be a pistol, man. That's a fiery dude, and I love that about him. Because Sherman will tell you, man, I'm like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I get weird. We started. I remember I was telling you last year. Me and Mark started becoming such good friends that when his brother was the baseball coach, we started playing each other in baseball. We never did that. It's because I was the baseball coach, Mark was the assistant, his brother was the head coach. And if you want me to make you laugh right now, I have their number in baseball. I've won more baseball games than the Carson brothers have. He's beat me more in football, but I got him in baseball.
I like it. I like it. Fighting words. That's how I will remind him of that on Friday. That is good stuff. Coach Burkhead, if you would talk to me about the difference really from being an assistant coach to overnight, however long it took. I mean, you're the head guy. You guys are 4-0, so your team is playing very well, but there is a significant difference, right? And you think you're ready. Was there any maybe, I don't know, learning curves or whatever? So when you're handed that head coach headset, it's a little different feel maybe than the assistant coach headset.
Yeah, the thing is like as far as like the coaching part of it and like working with the guys, that wasn't really much of a transition. And taking over, I have led, the actual entire youth football program, and I was used to that. The part that I wasn't used to is how much work it is as a head coach to run a program and all the peripheral things that go along with that, and hiring staff and making sure things get done. And I didn't, when you run a youth football program, you think you do a lot, but I'm telling you, at a high school level, there's just a lot of moving parts, managing personalities and making sure all the things get done and get ready for Friday night. Setting up practice, that's easy. I'm an organizer by trade anyway. And working with people as a pastor, that's just part of what I do. I'm used to having difficult conversations, X's and O's. I'm surrounded by a great staff of people who know a lot about football, and I lean heavily on them, as we make decisions, both offensively and defensively. But I think the biggest challenge is really the administrative side of being a head coach.
Yeah, delegating, being one of those walk around guys, making sure every piece of the puzzle is operating correctly. And I just curious, I guess, because of the whole mixing, being a pastor and now a head coach. I mean, a lot of responsibility on both ends. I mean, what's more nervous, that Friday night kickoff or that Sunday morning sermon from the pulpit?
Friday night kickoff. I've been a pastor a long time. I've preached a long time. It's funny. I actually talked to my congregation this last Sunday. I said, I love Sunday morning. It's the Lord's Day. I said, but my heart races all week for Friday night. So, but I also will say is one of the things that really made this transition easy is that Rob actually had built a staff of assistant coaches who have been around Boron football and know Boron football inside and out. And it's been easy for me to come in and just kind of like pick up where he left off. I didn't have to completely build a new staff and a new culture. We already had a direction we we're going. All I'm doing is coming in and just kind of like picking up the football and running with it.
What I think we did a good job of, sorry, Matt.
Go ahead.
We did a good job of building a collaborative staff.
Yep, exactly.
That really respected each other, and we listened to each other's values, and there was no real hierarchy of power. We delegated well. We trusted each other really well, and we encouraged each other, and I think that's what we did pretty well.
Yep. Exactly.
Sherman has hit the ground running. There's nothing he's missing right now.
It's balancing out in any program, any level. It's balancing out things that, all right, we used to do that made us successful and the tradition there, and then doing it, throwing some other things in that it's like, well, we've never done it that way. Well, it's like, yeah, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe some change is good while honoring a little tradition as well.
Yep, exactly.
What Coach Burkhead, another question I have, and I've always asked Coach Carson this on our show or any other coaches I talk to at Rio and maybe alumni, whatever, especially, football's a passionate sport, and it's hard to play it, coach it, do it, root for it without passion. And sometimes our emotions get the best of us. That's why I think, Christianity and football kind of are tied together. But I mean, what do you tell not just, others, but yourself? Because I'm always asking Coach Carson, like, hey, if someone's watching us and like on the sideline, we're screaming at some ref or we're, talking to the other team or whatever, it's like, are we carrying those godly principles we're trying to live by? So do you find that in football kind of there's a fine balance there, of balancing passion with carrying oneself, I guess, in God's light.
Absolutely, without question. Well, I think that, I'm a naturally kind of passionate person anyway. That's always something I've had to work on ever since I became to faith. But football certainly can bring that out in me to a higher level. But fortunately, I've been in my faith as long as I have, and being in the pulpit, I'm always reminded that I'm an ambassador of Christ first. Doesn't mean that sometimes I don't, kind of lose my head for a second or two, but that does help to ground me. The other part of it too is, just having the experience of raising my family, being around football as long as I have. I've been able to grow and have quite a bit more patience, especially when things are difficult. My oldest son, he'll tell you that I'm a lot more patient now with my younger kids than I was with him. So.
Well, you had him to practice on, right? I mean,
exactly right.
You're not ready for varsity reps right out the gate. Sometimes you got to get that work in.
That's right.
Rob, I'm going to ask you about last year's game at your place. When we got there, hey, again, this is a friendly relationship, friendly rivalry. When we got there, some things I noticed, the locker room was a little warm and the grass was a little tall. And I thought to myself, they're looking for an edge here. And so you kind of talk the guys up, man, you see what they're doing. They got a hot locker room. They didn't mow the grass. They think that's going to slow you guys down. I'm kind of kidding, but it was talked about. I'll say that.
And hey, in defense to us, the girls' locker room does not have a swamp cooler or an AC unit. So there's not a lot I can do, even though we don't mind it. And yes, we definitely kept the grass long. You guys were fast. You had a lot of speed, and we knew we were young. And if I could take that game back, honestly, if I could go back to last year, because if you remember, you guys scored right away, but we scored right away. Yep. So it looked like it might get into a blow changing, and I decided to throw the ball. And if I could change things, I'd go back and I'd get in the bunch and I would grind that game down to a screeching halt, and I would have waited until about the 5-second call to even run our play, and I would have just game managed much different. But that's one of the reasons I love playing Rio. We got our butts kicked last year. We went into our coaches meeting on Sunday and we changed the way we played a little bit. And then we went on a nice run in league and we ended up playing Bishop for a league championship. So for me, Rio was always our measuring stick. I was telling Sherman that. I tell parents that all the time. That's our measuring stick. That's where we know whether or not we're doing the right things. And we use that game, win or lose, to the benefit of what's our coaches meeting like on that weekend.
I can't think of a more respectful statement to the Rio Hondo program than that. And that's why I like having coaches from other schools on here. That's really, really good stuff. And, inspires our coaches and players to be a little bit better. Despite the whole grass cutting thing, not a big deal, coach. Hey, you're looking for an edge. That's what it's all about right there. I went, what is going on here? I've wondered after talking to you last year, and then I didn't get a chance after the game to say hello, but I've been wanting to ask you this for an entire year, kind of jokingly, of course, but Rio Hondo very well. You kind of know their plays, right? We know each other very well. And I remember when offensive coordinator Randy Johnson's first play of the game, he pulls us out in this shotgun look, goes with a gun. I'm thinking, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? And then it goes for 80 yards or whatever. And I'm thinking, wow, well, they knew what we were going to do. They knew kind of our system and some of our plays, and maybe that was just to throw them off. And I don't know, did that make you pull out your hair a little bit? Just thinking like,
I mean, not necessarily pull my hair out, but yeah, we for surely prepped for the motion power to the big boy. We thought that would be the first play of the game. We thought you guys would do your motion that basically puts you in a jumbo set, so to speak. And we thought you guys would go to 42 right off tackle right away. Yeah, we didn't think you'd get in shotgun and do stuff like that. I mean, I'll be honest with you, and Sherman knows this, just playing Rio Hondo puts you on edge anyways. You're kind of on edge just by the nature of the game. And but yeah, we definitely didn't think you guys were going to get into shotgun and do anything like that. And so we kind of looked at each other and said, well, they've got other weapons and other tools, and we might have to redial up here.
Well, I think it was out of respect to you guys, knowing that, Randy, knowing, hey, they know all of our stuff, and we got to do something off the bat here to gain an edge. And unfortunately for us and not for you, it worked out. But yeah, that unique offense you guys ran last year with the really big splits and then the power running game kind of in there, I think it over time, it may have worn us down, especially our little freshmen there for a while. But whatever you guys are doing this year, Coach Burkhead, you guys are putting up a great deal of points, some rather scary scores on the scoreboard here, scoring in the 50s twice and the high 40s twice as well. So, I mean, we're not giving away any secrets here on the show or anything because, you know, everyone's got film and we're looking at stuff. But I mean, what makes you guys click so well to put up so many points? Yeah, the speed and the power or what?
Well, first of all, it's maturity. I mean, these kids have been playing together now for a couple of years, and I think they've really grown to really trust each other and believe in what we, you know, the program we've built. But what we've really, I think, instilled in these kids is just to lead from the front. We've got some kids now that are juniors who've been with us since freshmen, who are now, you know, really ready to lead, and they lead by their actions. Now, obviously, you know, you're watching film and you know that we've got some fast kids that helps a lot. But we also have, you know, an offensive line that's been playing together a long time, and they've really matured and gotten better at their craft, and they take it seriously. And I think that's really it. You know, obviously there's not any magic on the game planning or the sets that we run. It's just getting people in the right spot and then getting 11 guys to make plays.
Yeah, we'll look at some scores here. You open the season with let me see here. Yeah, you opened the season with can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine, brother.
Okay, I lost the visual there for some reason. But anyway, Bishop Montgomery, you guys see the screen?
Yep.
Okay. Bishop Montgomery, you started home game there, 48-0. Miramonte from Bakersfield, 56-29. A lot of kickoffs in that game. Riverside Prep, 45-6, and Sierra, 55-12. So again, whatever you guys are doing, you're scoring a lot of points. And one thing that's funny with kind of our games, if you guys have looked at our scores, all of our scores are pretty much exactly the same, 45-14, 42-14. So right. Something's got to give on Friday, man. I don't know if it's going to be in the 40s for each of us, but I think we're going to have ourselves a tough matchup, honestly.
Yeah, well, we've talked about it. This could be, you know, 7-14 or 77-70. I mean, we're really not sure how that's going to work out yet.
High school kids are a funny beast, man. You just never, you never know which monster is going to show up on that Friday. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of distractions and things too. But I feel like, again, this is 2 undefeateds going into this game. That someone's going to lose that 0 on the record, and it feels like a heavyweight fight. Honestly, 2 guys going in that know each other very well. For me, anytime I'm watching, but it always gets me to the television when I'm watching boxing, and I know both guys are undefeated, and you know, something does got to give here. So, Rob, what was the biggest win for you guys over Rio Hondo in either your time as a head coach or an assistant?
It's hard to argue with that 2010 season, that's for sure. You know, we got you guys twice that year. That semifinal game in Boron was one of the neatest games to ever be involved in. I think the 2016 game where we were at your place, Mark was the head coach, I was the head coach, and we snuck that one out. It was a 2014 ball game. I think that was just fun because Mark and I were finally the head coach, not the assistant coaches. And that was just a fun win. How is it not fun to beat Rio, you know? But I just think it's probably hard to argue with the 2010 season. Since then, right, that's probably been our more magical year. We kind of feel like this year's team has that 2010 remnant to it. There's a lot of speed. There's youngness there, so there's still a lot of room to grow. But this team this year kind of feels like that. There's multiple weapons, multiple guys to go to. As far as fun, though, playing Rio, probably the funnest year I ever had. This is going to sound crazy, and I know Mark remembers this game. So we beat him in 2016 at your place at the old field. You were still at the high school. Mm-hmm. That very next year, Boron High graduated a lot, and so did Mark. So physically and talent-wise, we were both down and didn't have the greatest seasons in 2017 overall. And he came out to Boron. His offense was down, and our offense was definitely down. And it was a war, and it was a dogfight, and it was nothing at halftime. And he's going into the locker room at halftime, and I'm going into the locker room at halftime. And I looked at Mark and I said, you know, Mark, one of us have to score to win this game. This cannot end in a 0-0 tie. And we both kind of chuckled because it was a difficult season. Just everything in general. Talent was definitely down. We were super young. We had some guys, we had some ability, but we were super young. We had graduated a really, really good senior class. And same was for him. Talent for him was a little down. So we had to coach our tails off to get a lot out of that season. And he ended up sneaking it out on us. They beat us 7-0. So that was probably the funnest game, because I think we both were about as on even playing field as we had ever been. And it really just came down to grit and will. And they scored late in the fourth quarter to take a 7-0 lead. And that was one of the funner games, just because of just the intensity of, all right, somebody's going to have to score here. Have to actually win this game. 2012 was fun. So he keeps talking about his older son. His older son's name is Sherman Burkhead as well. So he's a junior, right? Is he a junior?
He's a third.
He's a third. So his son's the third. He was on our 2012 team when we came to you and just talked heavyweight punching match. Remember, it was like, what'd you guys get us, like 42-40? They went to Holguin on the left for a 2-point conversion. Jake was a baller, you know what I mean? Just an absolute dog, right? And so we barely lose to you in a dogfight, and we wanted that semifinal game so badly, and we go down to St. Monica and freaking choked it off and couldn't finish off St. Monica, and then you guys waxed St. Monica the next week. Wasn't even a ball game. But that 2012 game was awesome because of the points scored. You'd score, we'd score. You'd go for two, we'd go for two. That was a fun game. The 2012 game was fun.
What's so interesting is that if we look back and we're honest, at Rio Hondo, like some of our probably the best 4-year stretch, 5-year stretch we had in the 11-man, it was like 08 to 2012. That's right when you guys started playing us. So 4 or 5 of our greatest teams there, really. I think we had 3 championships and a runner-up, whatever it was. So you caught us at a very good time with our program, and that shows how good you guys were, because we were kind of going back and forth for a few years.
Absolutely. And I think what's probably stressful nowadays for Mark, and it's definitely stressful for us, and we mean no disrespect to the powers that be, but small school football has a real difficult place the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I know you guys do, because the way we were just talking about this while we were waiting for you, is, going off of computer algorithms has dynamically changed small school football. Mm-hmm. There's been years I've looked at Rio Hondo and you've been in the Division 9 playoffs, but some of the big schools over here in Lancaster are landing in Division 12, and we're in the central section now. I don't think we've played a single school under 2,000.
Yep.
Since we've been in the central section, and it's just changing the game. And I think that's the other reason I love playing Rio Hondo. It actually feels old school. It actually feels small schools have a place in the world. And that's why I love the game, because you're right. Since that 2012-ish season, small school football forever changed. In 2016, we talked about that one of the times we beat Rio. Had we have beat Laguna Beach in the second round, we were going to play Santa Ana High School. There's 5,200 kids in their school. I don't understand where any of this belongs in our worlds.
I think bottom line is, we speak freely here on the podcast, is the CAF, they don't care. They just don't care. They got to place people in divisions, and you know what? If kids get hurt, they really don't care. And in football, enrollment really does matter. I'm sorry. I know there are some schools that bring in ringers and, they don't have a huge enrollment and but it's not what's going on at Rio Hondo, at Boron. It's just, they don't care. I don't understand the whole, you don't know what division you're going to be in until later in the year. That's ridiculous. But they're trying to make it all equity. And it's just, I don't know, that word's a dirty word to me, no matter what. And it's just brutal. It's bad. And yeah, I think there's a reason why some of the smaller schools who've been very, very successful haven't been able to hang maybe a banner or two that they would have in the past with some of their best teams.
We were saying that the part of the system I never understand is that, how does the champion of the league get knocked out in the first round, but your 4th place teams are winning CIF championships? And there's nothing you can tell me that will ever make me buy into that system. The difficult thing with the system is the games are actually competitive. You guys have gone to Division 9. We've gone to Division 5. We ran to the semis in the Central section in Division 5. You guys went to Division 9 and played some people that on paper is a terrible matchup, and you've beat them. We're not helping our cause a whole lot.
No, that's the problem. We get Division 7 3 years ago when we played Charter Oak, who was a dream matchup for us, down the street from us, public, great school and everything. But we took them down, and it was a dream matchup. But then it's like, okay, then you got to play another school that has another huge monster roster. And, what are you supposed to, all you can do is play who's in front of you. Unfortunately, it's tough to piece together wins. I think Mark has a great suggestion idea of just saying like, okay, maybe there's like a window and a ceiling and a basement type of like, okay, if your enrollment is 500 or below, you can only be in divisions 14 through 11. And if you're really, really good, maybe you're in 11. Okay, if your enrollment, you know what I mean? You fit into different windows really, rather than just like, yeah, there's schools with 2,000 kids playing in division 13 and 14. That's not what this is all about.
It's not what it's about at all.
No.
Right. Well, a few years ago, we had that same exact thing when we go to the semifinals and then we lose to Liberty and Madera, who then runs into a buzzsaw at Rigetti, who was like, what, 2-8 on the season?
Yeah.
You have a 2-8 season and go in and win a CIF championship.
With 5,000 kids in their school. If you look Rigetti up, they're like 4,800 or something. And had we have beat Liberty, that's who we were going to play.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me?
And that's like, I think Muir was out here last year, similar story. And, we want to play those schools. We want to play the big public schools, either in a regular season or maybe but it's just like to sustain 4 tough playoff wins against some of these schools. I just don't know. We're not there yet. I mean, I think we want to be, but we're never going to be 1,000 kids at Rio. It's just never going to be that way. That's just not how it's built. But, I guess we'll see. I don't know what it's going to take to change things, but maybe if enough people voice their opinion, things will change. I don't know. Coach Burkhead, let's talk about your team a little bit, or now we were talking about your team, kind of what you see from Rio. Again, we're not giving away secrets or anything. If film goes, we all know each other, but from what you've seen on film, or the scores or the stats or whatever, what can you tell me of your thoughts on Rio going into this game?
I'll tell you exactly what we say to our kids when preparing for Rio. That there's a bunch of kids over there that love to play football. That's what we see, is a bunch of kids that love to play football, who really are excited to do their jobs, who get off the ball and block well, who tackle well, who pursue the ball well, and are very coached very well. No matter what you run, whether you're going to run that power, or you're going to, try to spread us out, or, or sneak that little tight end out, when nobody else is looking. Whatever you do, you guys are going to execute well, and we have to be at our best to compete with you.
I think the Rio Hondo offense is super unique. I mean, you guys know about unique offenses yourselves, but I tell Mark all the time, like some of the stuff that has worked for years, and Randy's great at calling plays and has formulated this system. I say all the time, I have no idea how this works. Like, I understand the concepts, but this stuff shouldn't work. And so I wonder from like an opposing team standpoint, and we have a good enough relationship that I could ask you guys this. It's like, there's got to be some frustration there, right? Like, you think what's coming, and then for some reason Rio is able to pull it off, and I'm just like, I have no idea why that play just worked right now. And this is someone who is hoping for the play to work, the toe tight and running inside, the quick pitch. Anyway, those are my 2 cents. What do you think?
You go first.
Yeah. Well, I think again, it comes down to kids just getting after it, and being well coached. I mean, because you can run 100 different schemes, and but if the kids haven't bought into what you're doing or aren't willing to work their tails off, it doesn't matter. What works is, kids get off the ball and block. They get downfield and looking to hit somebody else, and then defensively, guys that are just willing to go stick their face in there and make a tackle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
no doubt.
Whatever you do, you do well. Whatever you do,
right.
However you do it, whether you're Navy running the triple option or,
right.
Oregon going hurry up, just do what you do well, I guess is the moral of the story. Rob?
I think what Rio does well with that tricky offense, when you're talking, it's always reminded me of, they kind of adopted 8-man football to 11-man. When you're in that I set, right? Let's be real. That's an adoption of 8-man football that carried over to 11. And then you guys learned the 11 game well. And what I mean by that is, and I said this all last year, so Sherman's heard me say this a million times. every play that Rio has on the front side, power side, whether they fly into jumbo and outnumber you or whatever, because the quick pitch works well because of numbers. But what Rio does better probably than anybody I've ever seen, and I think Sherman's doing a great job of it this year, whatever play you guys have well that's your staple, you have a backside play to that. You have a counter to that. You have something that attacks the weak side so that if you think you know what's coming and you shift over and try to play the numbers game, they will kill you on a backside counter weak side play. And that's what they do well. That's what I've always felt they do better than anybody in the game so far, is they have a second option to their money play. And they will call it at the right time. They do that probably better than anyone I've seen.
Yep.
I think if you want to know why Boron's scoring points this year, I think Sherman's doing a really good job of that with his play calling. Is every time that they see someone shift to a strength, he's done a very good job at finding the backside play and finding the numbers on the opposite side. That's what I think makes Rio's tricky offense click like it does. That's my opinion.
I back to the boxing analogy. I mean, it's all about counterpunching, right? I mean, what you try to stop something that they do well, and then you gotta, if you don't have an option off it, you can stay stubborn, but if it's not working, you gotta keep them honest. If you run a lot, you gotta mix in a pass every now and then. If you sweep a lot, you gotta go counter sometimes. So yeah, that's again, back to the beauty of football. I don't think any other sport has this chess match that's constantly going on. And you guys, unfortunately, you guys, head coaches everywhere, receive unfortunately a lot of the reactions from fans and such who think they know what they're doing and that you're just just not even thinking out there. So it's a thankless job, really, coaching football sometimes.
Yeah. When we win, the kids did great. When we lose, the coaches messed it up.
That's right. And you know what? It's got to be a tremendous honor that way, because Coach Carson says the same thing. It's like,
absolutely,
he's very humble in it all, but it is about the kids. And unfortunately, some people take it a little too far these days. Well, we will see you guys both on Friday. I am very much looking forward to a game against Boron is always fun. Nice being home this year. Rob, I haven't talked to Coach Carson yet, but I think the grass will be nice and short, so there'll be a lot of speed out there for both teams.
That's a good thing, because we like the speed on this team, and obviously we know you guys have speed. We know that 3 and 31, I don't know their name, but we know that those boys have grown up a little bit too. And I was telling you that on the phone, like I looked at 3 and 31 and 42 and some of those guys that played against us last year, and I said them boys grew up a little bit.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. Well, you talked about it, Coach Burkhead, maturity being a huge thing. I mean, physically, it's important to get thicker and faster and all that. And I think again, back to similarities for last year, we had a very young team, a lot of freshmen and sophomores, and now those guys are a year older. And a year older always helps the coaching staff, right?
Right. It absolutely does.
You miss your players leaving, but we'll get to have you back next year. Cool. I got all kinds of plans for you. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. The Boron Bobcats come to town. I do know this: Bobcats are fast if you let them out in the open. So we got to buckle down and keep you guys contained. It's going to be a fun 48 minutes. Back to boxing. I don't think we're going to see any draws in this one. I think we're going to get a clear winner, and it should be fun. Who's left standing on the canvas afterwards? What do you think?
I think so, brother.
Absolutely.
All right, Coach Rob Kostopoulos, or Principal Rob Kostopoulos, and Coach Burkhead. A pleasure. Thanks for joining us here on the Charge to Keep podcast. I will say good luck the rest of the season. How's that sound?
Matt, it was really good to see you, brother. Please pass on to Mark and those guys that I said hello, okay?
We will do that. This will be out Thursday night. I will let you guys know so that you can spread the word if you like. And we'll get a nice little pregame show for the bus ride down 395, guys. Travel safe, and we'll see you Friday night.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt.
Always fun getting the opinions and outlook from other schools, especially the coaches and some of the higher ups. Big thanks to Coach Burkhead and to Principal Kostopoulos for coming on the podcast and chatting with me about the fun rivalry between Rio Hondo Prep and Boron High School. Many miles apart, but they still play this game every year out of respect for each other. And some traditions are just fun to keep going. And yes, Rio Hondo has won a great deal of these games, but that's not to say that Boron is not in a lot of them and has given us our fair share of of disappointing losses as well. So it's a rivalry that exists for a reason, we'll say. It's some things you can't explain. It's just football, man. And it's one of the great things about high school football. One of the many great things, I would say. So I look forward to shaking each of their hands on Friday night before the game, and then it's game on, and we'll see what happens. So 12 rounds, 12-minute quarters. We'll see. We'll see at the end of the night who's left standing between the Kares and the Bobcats. Once again, 2 4-0 teams come into Kare Park. Who will leave with their 5th win and a continued 0 in the losing column? We shall see. It's going to be a lot of fun. Nothing but respect from head coach Mark Carson to these men and to their program as well. So if you see some intensity out there, some fiery, hitting and stuff, know that it's not meant in a negative way, bad blood. It's just kids competing, coaches competing. And you know what? Sometimes even brothers fight, right? I think RHP faithful out there, they know enough to see when an opponent is being classless or, really unsporting or something of that nature. And you're not going to see that from the Boron Bobcats because there's a mutual respect there. And likewise with the Kares, I don't think there will be any situations. Just again, a great competition, and bring the ice packs. It's going to be a physical game. And we'll see. End of the night, hopefully talk to their coaches and our coaches, and we'll see if we can get out some content, maybe some Instagram quick interviews for you guys there, since I was absent last week, and I will try to make up for that here in due time. Well, week 4 is here. 2 undefeated teams, 4-0 versus 4-0 Boron versus 4-0 Rio Hondo Prep. We already talked about their schedule and some of their scores, so we won't go into that now. And typically on the pregame shows, like for the people that are new to this, and maybe there's some Boron fans out there listening, welcome to the Charge to Keep podcast, the official podcast of Rio Hondo Prep football. We have a YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook page, Twitter, all that good stuff, and try to put out great content for the RHP fans out there, present and from the past and all over. So it's a fun thing to keep this program growing and just keep people's interest, because no matter when you graduated from Rio, you still care how those guys are doing back home. So that's what the podcast is about, and just trying to educate the fans a little bit as well on our pregame shows with some rules, just some topics and things that I think would make anybody a little more knowledgeable, and for us to understand the game a little bit more without talking down to anybody or anything like that. So I want to talk this week about sideline conduct, if you will. Again, a brief, since we're playing the Boron Bobcats, we might get a little fiery. No, just kidding. But, sideline conduct's important in all levels of football. There is that 3 feet restricted area that you're supposed to have on sidelines. And for some reason, especially in high school, coaches tend to creep out there. In college and pro, it's solid white, right? And you look on a game and it should be totally clear. In theory, they should have that area that's totally clear for officials, because we need to work off the field. But I say we, because back when I was officiating, then there should be another line for coaches, and then behind that, so theoretically players should be 6 feet back from the field of play. And I know we all creep up, we want to get up on the field, but we got to keep that area clear for the officials, because they need to stay back and stay safe too, to manage the game. And we often are, attacking those guys, if you will, screaming at them. But when we don't do the things on a sideline, for instance, that we can control, it's really hard for if it's really hard, I would say, for an official to listen to you if you're not doing the one thing that he's probably asking of you. I should demand of it, honestly. Just, hey, stay back. I just asking for 3 feet, 100 yards of 3 feet. Just give me that, and Coach Carson, he'll creep up if he has to talk with an official or something. And most of the coaches and the players do a great job of this, but this is more just universally with football. We got to stay out of that area. It's not just on the sideline, it's back another 3 feet or so. And it's safety concerns, of course, and just to keep everything a little bit better organized. There are some penalties, and we'll talk specifically about high school football with this. If an official feels that he's just being crowded, he's got no room, you got to move. Remember, you're trying to keep your eyes out on the field, not what's behind you, right? Or to your sides. You got to move laterally. And if you feel like you have no room to breathe, or you have to slow down because you're going to run into someone, you're not able to pay attention to what's going out there, and then you might miss something. Maybe that has happened a time or two, and everyone's screaming about a call. Well, you're in the way, and I had to worry or shuffle or hesitate, and I wasn't able to see something clearly. So make the official's job as easy as possible. And we're going to yell. This is just what we do in football, right? People want 51% of the gray area at all times, but you got to do your part. I mean, if you could see on Sundays or Saturdays, those guys yell at officials also and are communicating, but that area is very clear. And I think high school football, for whatever reason, it's just not demanded enough. And so when you're officiating, you have to take control of your sideline. And you have some tools in your tool belt for that. And in high school football, you have what's called a sideline warning. And you will see the official from the sideline throw his flag, go out, and tell the white hat, and he will give a sideline warning signal. And if you notice, the first time they do that, generally there's no penalty marks. It's literally no penalty yardage. It is actually an official warning, basically. And so it doesn't hurt to throw that flag, honestly. A good team should never even get the warning. But if the warning does happen, it's not a referee trying to like paint his line in the sand, or like, hey, I have a badge, that I want to show everyone how much. I mean, sometimes you have to do that if your sideline's just out of control or has had a bad reputation or whatever. I mean, it's when I was on the sideline, you got to keep in mind it's you against 50 or you against 80 maybe, or 100 even in some of these bigger schools and things. So you have to manage your sideline correctly. And I think Rio does a pretty good job of this. They could improve upon it, honestly, as an impartial opinion here. The coaches, assistants do kind of creep out a little bit, but that's just, again, it's just what you permit is kind of what you promote as an official. So if you don't say anything or take control of your sideline, then that's kind of on you. But there have been some sideline warnings, I think, on Rio. One time there was actually guys, a long touchdown run. They kind of spilled on the field a little bit, and the referee did throw a flag. He called it another sideline. The second sideline warning does result in some penalty yardage. Now, if an official physically runs into somebody, and if he's got his eyes on the field and he's shuffling or running and he runs into somebody, there's no warning on that. Again, in the restricted area, there is no warning on that. If you make contact, there is an automatic 15-yard penalty. It's 2 hands behind the back. It's called sideline interference. Now, one caveat to that is if that occurs during live ball play, right? That occurs during live ball while an official is trying to chase a play or read a play. It occurred during live, but it is always treated as a dead ball foul. So if play goes for a touchdown or whatever, it's not going to cost you that touchdown. You will receive the penalty yardage, 15 yards for if an official runs into you on the kickoff or the public address, the PAT. So you want to keep those sidelines clear. So many times when the ball goes by you, you got to keep sure there's someone else coming. And generally officials, you trail the play. That's the proper way to do it anyway. And so we got to stay out of their way. Wait that extra half second before you run onto the field because the officials got a job to do. And we're very hard on them. We want them to do their job. Well, we need to do our part as well and help manage that sideline. Just one split second. Wait, I know what everyone's amped up. Emotions are high, but you can't spill out onto the field. You might get into someone's way. I've seen injuries. I've seen all kinds of things like that. So sideline management is very, very important. We don't have that bank anymore back at Kare Field that, it's hard to get back. You got to give those guys that 3 feet, which is, I think it's 3 feet. It should be still 3 feet. No, that doesn't sound right. I think it's 3 yards. Is it 3 yards? Hey, look at my rule book. Where's my rule book? Anyway, no, I think it's 2 yards. I haven't stepped it off in a while, but anyway, whatever it is, back up some more. If you think you're not further back, give those guys plenty of space because I'll tell you this, I'll tell you right now, as an organized, perception is everything, right? And if I walked onto a field as a football official and I started working a few series on a game and I noticed that sideline was totally clear, the only person I saw maybe that was spilling out a little more than others was the head coach, and assistant coaches, said their piece here and there. But if there was ever a real issue, it was the head coach coming, and I still had a clean sideline to work. I had massive respect for that program. And I knew that if nothing else, that was a team that was in control, a coach that had total control of his guys. And therefore it was more comfortable to work as an official because it's one less thing to worry about. There's enough things to worry about. You miss calls anyway. You make the wrong call. You think you see something. It's craziness out there, right? And the officials are trying to manage the game. And I'm not making excuses for them. I'm just telling you guys how it is and what my experiences were like. So when you see a sideline that's just out of control, people spilling out, you're having to flag it. It's a tough place to work, right? Help my office. Help our offices coexist. It's one of the unique things in football where you are right alongside the team there on the sideline and, in each other's office, if you will. Well, give them their area. Let them be, we're really, what are we talking about? 2 steps backward? Like, think about it seriously. Like, it may not seem like a big deal to you on the sideline, but an official, especially as you get near the goal line, and maybe this will come into play with fans. If you get near the goal line, and fans are out there on the sideline, you got to get way back. I'm talking like 5 yards, because an explosive play at the pylon is really tough to see. And that stuff can get knocked out really wide. And just, it's for safety, man. Injuries. Help these officials see what they got to see, because you don't want sideline warnings. You don't want sideline warnings with penalty yardage. And you certainly don't want an official to run into you, because that's an automatic 15, whether you've had the free warning or not. So just head on a swivel. Think of it this way, guys. When you're going onto the field, I'm talking like at the end of a play or something, right? Before you sprint out there. If your coaches want you in there between downs or something, like they hurry up, like the ball's not going anywhere. If the ball took significant movement or whatever, and you're on the sideline, just maybe a quick glance before crossing the street, if you know what I mean, right? Just a quick glance. You never know. Chain crews. Let's help the chain crews out. When you're the visiting team, guys, that it gets even trickier, right? And I'm at fault too. You sneak up, you're getting the chain guys' way. It's make their job easier. And I know the visiting teams probably want to do the same thing. When we have our chain crew over there, we want the same thing. So it's even more important when you're on the visiting sideline where the chains are. Okay. Those are my 2 cents for the rules this week. Not a specific rule, I guess, but important at all times. And with those sidelines, I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory, but the teams can't go past the 25-yard marks as well. That is, if you ever wonder, like, hey, why do they always stop at the 25? Well, by rule, the teams can't go further down the sideline. If you got to run out there, Coach Carson's got to call timeout or something, different story. But the team box is between the 25s. And again, 3 yards. Sorry, it's been a while since I've officiated, but it might be 2 yards. I think it's 6 feet. That's right. 6 feet sounds about right. So give those officials room, and I'm sure they'll be more receptive to some of the criticism out there and friendly feedback from coaches and everybody. Fans, they're up in the stands. That is what it is. But when you're in my working area, hey, give me some room so I can hear you. Otherwise, I can't hear you. I can't hear you if you're in my way. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense. Oh, it's late at night. I got to get going. But guys, hopefully you enjoyed this episode talking to the Boron Bobcat head coach and the principal, former head coach of the school. Great time as always, chatting with them and talking with again, the opposing side. It's a combat out there. You're going up against somebody, but when there's mutual respect and can have friendly conversations, I think it makes competition a lot of fun. So we'll see what happens Friday. Someone's O must go, as they say. Boron and Rio Hondo Prep in week 4. Both teams 4-0. Couple of heavyweights and guys that know each other very well. So bring your boxing gloves, a lot of extra towels for those times in the corner, if you know what I mean. And it's going to be a fun night. Who's going to remain undefeated? Well, we'll let you know on the post-game show on Saturday morning/afternoon, whenever it comes out, as we talk to head coach Mark Carson and a player from that ball game to reflect on the game and just chat about where we are in the middle of the season. Can you guys believe it's the middle of the season after 5 games in after this? Where has the time gone? Has it been fun for you? It sure has been for me. So, man, week 4 is here. And before you know it, we'll be into league play. I told you it's the fastest 10, 11 weeks of the year. And it is once again been proven true. We will see you Friday night, guys. Come ready to go. At Boron, I love you guys, but hey, for 2.5 hours, I can't wish you well, man. It's got to be all Rio Hondo Prep. All kidding aside, good luck the rest of the way, and we'll see you on Friday night. Be sure to tune in for the post-game show Saturday as we recap this big game. And man, just so much fun. I don't know what the time is, man. It's just Rio Hondo Prep football. It's fantastic. It's great. Sure, that NFL stuff, college stuff is fun, but come on, it's all about Friday Night Lights. Get there early. There's going to be pizza, I think, for the junior high girls summer trip and things of that nature. But get there, get your gear, and get some pizza, get a good seat, and get ready for a slugfest, because I really think we're going to see a very, very physical game. Maybe some points, a lot of points. Maybe they'll be at a premium. Who knows? You never know when Boron and Rio Hondo Prep get together. Another edition of that this Friday night at Kare Park. We'll see you on Friday there, and then if not, in addition, we'll see you Saturday morning, afternoon on the post-game podcast. Go Rio, beat Boron, who will remain undefeated. Tune in Friday night.
I won't give up on the champ. As long as I'm breathing, I'm not retreating. I could be bleeding, I'll take a beating and keep on proceeding. I'm not fatiguing, 'cause once I enter the ring, I'll be undefeated.